We do have a quorum. Tim, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. If anyone wishing to say the pledge, Tim Wiles will lead you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So, as per typical virtual meeting, I'm going to ask everyone to be muted if you are not speaking, so we can all hear clearly. The first thing on our agenda is Phil Metzger's oath of office, but I believe, Brian, you had something first.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Welcome.
So I have a letter here that I'd like to quickly read. So please accept this letter as my formal resignation as a trustee of the Gilliland Public Library, effective January 21st, 2021. As a lifelong patron of the Gilliland Public Library, it has been an amazing experience serving as a trustee for the past 10 years. My mother actually first took me to the library, this library, when I was 5 months old, and I've been coming here ever since. For almost a third of my entire life, I've had the honor of being a trustee, and I'm so pleased to be able to serve the community that I love and try to improve one of the town's greatest institutions. I do not take my resignation lightly, and I do so with sadness. It appears to me that a mean-spirited and passive-aggressive culture has taken over our board. The final straw for me came at our last meeting when I felt certain trustees tried to mischaracterize and attack another trustee's motion and sought to belittle anyone who supported it. I've been on this board for 10 years and I've never seen anything like this. I'm not opposed to disagreement. In fact, I'm happily married, so I'm well versed in being told that I'm wrong, but I felt that this kind of crossed the line. There's always been a healthy level of disagreement on our board, which I believe is good because it allows for diverse opinions to be heard. But when we stop listening and stop compromising and start attacking and vilifying each other, we're turning into a board I'm no longer proud to be a part of. Combine this with the selective enforcement of rules and policies, especially regarding our meetings and email communications, and it's become too frustrating to be on the board. As a volunteer, I don't want to be a part of it anymore. While I leave with short-term concerns about the culture of the library, I still have great faith in the long-term viability of this organization. We have a good staff, an amazing administration, an excellent library foundation, and trustees who I personally know all care deeply, both for our community and our library. And that goes for all the trustees, even the ones who I've just recently met. It's a recipe for success. I'd like to end on a positive note. And so what I will miss most is the amazing people I've met while being a trustee and who have taught me so much. I think back over the last 10 years in absolute awe of the talented individuals I met while serving on the board. I wish I had time to list them all and how much they've shaped my life, but it would take me many pages to write. While listening to our president's inaugural address, I was particularly struck by a certain passage that I think best expresses my hope for the future of the library. And together we shall write an American story of hope, not fear, of unity, not division, of light, not darkness, a story of decency and dignity, of love and healing, greatness and goodness. May this be the story that guides us. I thank you for your time, and I'll submit my letter for the public record.
Thank you, Brian. I have to say I'm very sorry to see you go. You've been a tremendous asset to the board and the library from your tenure here. I remember the day you approached me and said, "Hey, do you want to be on the library board?" And so it is with great sadness that we will accept your resignation, and I will speak with you further at a later date.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you all, and I did speak to several people previously. So thank you all. Best of luck. All will be great. I'm not concerned at all. So thank you.
Have a good night. Kiss your wife and baby.
Oh, I will. I will.
May I speak, Caitlin?
Yes.
Oh, did he leave already?
He did.
This is very stressful, very stressing. I don't know him very well, but I, particularly reading that passage, I wish he would reconsider. Um, we- I'm sorry he left, but I just want to say that particularly the quote that he gave from our new president would lead me to hope that he would reconsider his leaving the board. I don't really know him, but it's stressful to hear that he felt that the board was not working well enough for him to be comfortable in it. And maybe we need to have a discussion about that at some point in time, like a mini retreat, not a board meeting, a discussion about civility.
So,
Hey, Caitlin, if you don't
Yes,
mind,
Mark.
say something real quick as soon as Marcia gets done.
I'm done.
yeah. Okay. Thank you, Marcia. Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, so it's with regret that I resigned from the Groveland Board of Trustees. I've been on the board for just over a year. In that year, I've had the honor to serve on this board with many great Guilderland residents. They're very passionate about the board and their constituents. Everything they do is in the best interest of the library and the public, and you're in great hands. So I wish you luck.
Mark, I will reiterate, I have not known you nearly as long as I've known Brian, but you've been a tremendous asset to the board. Your constant questioning is keeping us honest, and has always given me something to think about. And I always take pause when you speak to be very mindful, because I know that they're behind what you do. It is with the greatest consideration for the library and the community, and that there are reasons, and I appreciate them. We don't always agree, but I think I can agree with the rest of the board. We are sorry to see you go. You've been a tremendous asset.
Thank you.
And with that, Marcia would like to speak.
I
Richard?
just repeat what I said when Brian Best offered his resignation. Mark, you're still here. Brian left. Again, I don't know you and I'm new to the board. I truly hope you would reconsider.
Thanks, Marcia. Okay, with that, I'll depart. Thank you.
Mark, hang on one second, would you?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say to you, you and I have had some recent interactions. If I was in any way disrespectful or anything else, please, I would like to preemptively apologize and
Not at all. Actually, not at all. At all.
thank you. Thank you. No, I would just like to give you the opportunity to let me know in private if you'd like. And I would
Yeah,
like to
I
say
appreciate that.
that you kind of persisted on a recent issue, and I find that very refreshing and community minded. And I just wanted to compliment you on that, because
Thank you.
other people would have gone away, and you didn't. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Sometimes I've been told that's my worst trait, but I appreciate that, Richard. So thank you.
Barbara, yes. You're on. There you go.
I just want to say that I'm shocked and truly sorry that these two individuals who have contributed so much and have so much more to give, for some reason, couldn't work it out with their fellow board members and in a board retreat or whatever. I mean, our finance committee is going to be decimated. These are two of the brightest minds on developing budgets. I agree with Marcia. I would hope, beyond hope, that they would reconsider their resignations, because as human beings, if we speak to each other, I don't see why we can't work things out. And as I said, I'm devastated, because these are, Brian's probably one of the longest serving board members and has contributed so much. Mark has a wealth of wonderful background in finance and loves the library. So again, I'm terribly disappointed, and I would beg them to reconsider.
Thanks, Barbara.
So Mark,
Okay. Thank you.
Noreen, did you want to speak to Mark?
Yes. Before Mark, I just wanted to say Brian's not here, but I'm so saddened that he's gone. He always brought a fresh air to the board, and his years of experience have been invaluable. Very sorry to hear his resignation tonight. And Mark, I think I piggyback off Rich. If there's anything that, I was looking forward to working with you and finding your style. And it's hard through the computer. It really is. And I lament that I think I met you twice and then the whole world turned upside down. So I'd like to also ask if you would reconsider, because I think you're a force, but I think you get a lot of great things. And I really valued you on the policy committee.
Thank you, Noreen. You're doing a great job.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Marcia?
Yeah, is it possible for us to meet informally at the library with distancing and wearing masks to meet as a body, not officially, but unofficially, with Mark and with Brian, so we can all sit and talk together? Even if there's no reconsideration by either Brian and or Mark, I just feel, and again, I don't know either one of you very well. I just feel that to leave it on this note is incomplete and unsatisfactory. So
I'm not sure what the open meeting rules would say about us meeting, convening at the library as a library board, but not acting in official capacity. I would have to look into that and certainly confer with the attorney, but I would encourage everyone, if they feel necessary, to reach out to Mark and or Brian and to speak with them individually. So,
okay, fair enough.
Yeah, Barbara?
I believe that the open meeting rules certainly allow for what is called a board retreat or board development. And, that's certainly, we've done it before. You can ask Tim.
Great.
That is a meeting that is not, open to the public. It's considered board development. And it sure looks like we need one.
Yeah.
So, yes. So Tim said that we can do that. So conferred by two sources. Thank you both for letting me know. And, I'll have to defer to the library staff about when and where we can do that. But we'll certainly put that on the books and invite both Brian and Mark so that we can talk.
Thank you.
Thank
Barbara.
you.
Thank
Okay.
you. Bye-bye.
Caitlin?
Yes, Barbara.
Everything is wide open in the library. Basically, all you would need would be 3 long tables and chairs set 6 feet apart. I don't see any problem
Sure.
with
I understand that. I just want to check with the people who are in the building, the administration, to have them let us know when and where, because that may be what it looks like today, but with the way construction has been going at a quick pace, it might not be what it looks like in a week from now. So they have a good handle on that schedule, and I will defer to them as to the library's availability to be able to do that.
And I would just ask respect for those who may not feel comfortable in that situation, as there may be.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night, Mark. Before we go on, are there any other resignations? Oh, thank goodness. Okay. That being said, let's invite our new trustee, Phil Metzger, for the oath of office.
We have a quorum.
We do. We do. Peter and Jason have arrived. So let me just open up an oath of office.
You want me just to read it off?
Do you want to repeat after me?
I've got it written in front of me, whichever way works for you.
Can I speak for a second?
Yes, Peter.
I just want to say, unfortunately, last time I was not able to be there for the whole meeting. And I completely support Phil coming back on the board. That being said, I'm questioning how we did it. Typically what would happen, I know it was mentioned that precedent was followed. Typically, we opened it up to the town. We went for a 30-day period. It went before the nominating committee. The nominating committee then pushed it to the full board and a vote was done. I just want to say that that's how we did it before in the past. I don't know why we changed it this time, but I fully support Phil coming back on.
So I can just speak to that. I actually asked Tim about this to see what had happened previously, and there were two things that had happened. One was that it was open to the public in 30 days, and I was given the impression that that happened when there was no candidates who were interested who had run in the previous election. And had there been candidates who had run in the previous election, it would be the person who had gotten the next number of votes to continue working through the list of interested candidates who had run in the previous election. And so I put those options forward to the board and conferred with Barbara on the nominating committee. And she's been a board member for some time, and the board, and unfortunately you weren't here for that, all agreed to move forward going through the list of candidates who had run in the previous election. And we only had to go so far as Phil, who was the candidate who got the next number of votes but did not receive the board position.
Yeah, I actually spoke with Barbara afterwards. I had called her and talked to her about it and kind of reminded her of a past circumstance. And that circumstance was Dave Bosworth, and God rest his soul. But in that situation, he was the person who had previously or who had got the next highest amount of votes. And in that situation, the board definitely did not put him on. I know he was upset about that. He ended up running the following time and getting a seat. And it was great to have him on the board, but it was definitely not done like that. And that has been since I've been on the board, even before we voted to bring Tim on as director. So maybe I missed something, but that's definitely not how we did it in the past.
All right, well, I guess I was deeply mistaken, and I apologize for that. So I had also looked at the policies and the bylaws and had thought that we had been in line with what was there. And I'm, so sorry if I was mistaken. It seems, and since I've come on the board, there's been a lot of just happenstance since June of this year, since I became president. There's a lot of situations where there was no policy and it's just been passed down from board to board that, well, we've done things like this and this is how we always do things. And so that is something that our policy committee has worked through, but it looks like the election to a vacancy, it's about the regular elections, and I believe I deferred to something in the bylaws that noted what had taken place. So, Peter, I don't even know the names of the board members that you're referring to that this didn't happen with. So I certainly apologize. It's before my time.
No apology needed. I'm just saying that that's not how it had been done previously. And had Phil come before the nominating committee, I absolutely would have supported him. So I'm completely fine with him coming on the board. I think he's definitely an asset. I think his experience and things, he's been great. So I completely support him. I don't want to stop him from coming on. And I absolutely agree that we should probably develop a policy so that it's definitely in place going forward from this point. That's all I would say.
I appreciate that. Something that I have looked into as president is what policies exist, what need to be done, and more keep coming up every day about what needs to exist and how we should be operating. That being said, I appreciate when you guys call me on it, because I'm, while I encourage our board members to follow the rules and policies, I certainly don't want to be the policy police. So, and a vacancy shall be filled according to Article 3, Section 3 of our bylaws. The board shall fill any vacancy which occurs among the board members until the next annual election, at which time the vacancy will be filled by public election. So that is all that was said in our bylaws about filling a vacancy. And so it seems as if we're in accordance with our bylaws. Barbara, I know you want to speak. We should get Phil a member of our board as soon as possible.
This is going to be real quick, Lynn. Peter is correct. I had totally forgotten about that one example. The other examples that I had shared with you are what you just shared with the board, and that one just had escaped my mind, so I apologize.
All right. That being said, we'll reconvene that conversation, Peter, when we talk about filling the next 2 vacancies. So the Guilderland Public Library Board of Trustees oath of office. Phil Metzger, are you ready? And then you can join our conversations as a board member.
All right.
Go ahead.
I do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of library trustee according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Phil. 624. You are officially back on the board.
Totally on agenda.
So, next, public input. Luann?
Yes, hi everybody. I just have one thing to read for public input right now. It's a short letter. So here goes. Dear Guilderland Public Library board members, during the 5 months from June to October 2020, when the Guilderland Library staff refused to open the library to the public, and also for the past 3 months from November to January, when construction, possible lawsuit issues, and 6-foot social distancing concerns have made it too risky to reopen the library building, I and many other Guilderland residents have been welcomed into the open to the public Colony Library. As you are aware, Colony reopened their library building to the public during the first week of June 2020 and have been continually welcoming not only the citizens of Colony, but also the citizens of Guilderland since June. I am so thankful to the Colony Library staff for providing me and other citizens of Guilderland with this opportunity to make use of an open library, which was denied to us from June to October by the Guilderland Library staff. I, therefore, am proposing that the Guilderland Library Board vote on and pass a resolution expressing our thanks and commendation to the Colony Library staff for the service for which they have so generously offered and provided to the citizens of Guilderland during these past 8 months. Specifically, I am suggesting that the Guilderland Library Board consider and vote on the following resolution. The Guilderland Library Board of Trustees would like to thank, compliment, and commend the courageous, strong, and dedicated staff of the Town of Colony Library for the open to the public library services, which the Colony Library has provided to all of the citizens of the Capital Region, including many in Guilderland, during the past 8 months since your Colony Library reopened to the public. We also congratulate and compliment you for being recognized in a recent Times Union poll as being the best public library in the Capital Region. The dedication of your library staff to their duty over the past 8 months of pandemic stress and change has certainly proven that the Colony Library is, indeed, deserving of this honorable recognition. Sincerely yours, Dan Alexander, Guilderland, New York.
Thank you, Luann, and thank you, Mr. Alexander, for your public comment. Construction update with BRMA Turner. So who is jumping up? Is it Megan?
It's me.
Hi.
I'll have to share my screen. All right. So good evening. Again, like last month, I'll try to be brief so we can keep your meeting moving along. We just wanted to touch base on construction progress and budget updates. This is just an overall floor plan for reference if we need anything. Kirk, did you want to jump on and do our construction update of what's happened in the past month and what's coming up in the next few weeks?
Sure. We'll start off on the right of the picture. That is the current new addition. So as before, footings, foundation, steel. The newest part of that is the roof is now is weather tight. So the building is enclosed and weather tight, and we're preparing for the slab on grade. In that slab on grade, excuse me, all the underground utilities are complete. Also, the skylight is scheduled to begin installation tomorrow or next week. We now move over to the existing collection area, which is now area, what I call area B. Ceilings have been removed, demolition is complete, slab trenching for plumbing and electrical work is complete. All of this has been infilled with concrete, so it truly is complete, done. Above ceiling work is commencing. We call that plumbing, fire protection, mechanical and electrical is underway. And wall framing is scheduled to hopefully start in that area next week. We move over to the existing restrooms, what I call the gang bathrooms. Tile work is underway in that area D, which is the men's room. We finished underground in that area also, and concrete was poured so that once they're done with the tile in the men's room, they can go right over to the women's side of the restroom. And then the existing admin services, again, underground services are complete in there. Tile is done, concrete is done. And they are currently working in, as they can with mechanicals, electricals, HVAC, plumbing, and fire protection in that area as they can. That is the current update for what is going on and coming upwards in the next week.
And everything is moving along right with the schedule that Turner has developed with the 5 prime contractors. So we are right on schedule, or almost, we're in good shape for the overall schedule. We're looking to be ahead in a few areas. So that's great. As for budget update, similarly to last month, I just updated the summary. So what we've spent to date in terms of construction hard costs with the prime contractors getting their monthly payments. Most other things haven't adjusted much, but you'll see some of these things start to adjust now that we are moving further along and starting to do new construction work and not just the demolition. So we'll see some direct expenditures coming about, technology and furniture items to be purchased. But that's our current budget update. We're right on budget, as we discussed at one of our previous meetings. We had talked last month about the boiler number 3 replacement. We have a proposal from our mechanical contractor to do that replacement work. Their proposal is in the amount of $45,772. And that's all of the coordinating work to get it online with the control system so that the library staff can integrate it completely and be able to access it remotely and within the building. Moving along with that replacement work, which was already on the library's radar for replacement because it was your supplemental boiler, and the boilers number 1 and 2, your primary boilers, had been replaced recently. We went and did a quick survey of the building to see if anything else needed to be replaced that was from the original construction, and we noted that the 4 cabinet wall heaters in your existing 4 restrooms had not been called to be replaced in our construction project, and they weren't replaced previously in any of the other improvements done in the past few years. So we have a proposal from the mechanical contractor to replace those 4 units and update a diffuser type as well for an additional $4,185. We'd recommend doing this as well. That way, all of the heating and cooling units in your building have been replaced within the past 3 years. So everything's at about the same age and technology level. The other component for the boiler replacement work is the electrical scope. There's some wiring, fire alarm work that needs to be coordinated with the replacement. And we have a proposal from Flex Electric in the amount of $3,694 for that work. So the total amount anticipated is $53,651 for this scope of work. And if this is acceptable to the board, we can have the contractors move forward with that work.
So you need a motion on moving forward, Barbara?
I just have a question on the heaters in the bathrooms. Why isn't there just a outlet from our main heating system into each of the bathrooms? I don't understand why there has to be a separate standalone unit in each of the bathrooms. Usually when you have a bathroom, at least in a home, there's a vent that comes into the bathroom that's off your main heating line.
That's true. The way the building was originally designed, there's the supplemental cabinet heaters. It may be to supplement the exhaust because we have a large exhaust draw from that space because they're multi-hole restrooms. It was the way it was originally designed, and we thought, knowing that they're 30 plus years old and they've been in place, so they're dusty, worth of 30 years worth of dust and grime, that it might be a good time to replace them as they're removed right now for the tile work and all the new work inside.
I guess I just have the follow-up question. Seeing that everything is open and exposed, how difficult would it be to put them in with the main heating system? Or I don't understand why they had to be special units in each of the bathrooms rather than coming off the main line. Maybe there's a reason architecturally, I don't know. Is it cheaper or?
It may be just because that's a separate space that has the exhaust draw so that it cools in there faster than in other spaces. So the thermostats, because you don't have a separate heat pump or unit serving just those restrooms, the wall heaters supplement and offset any heat loss in there.
Now, have our current architects taken a look at that?
Our mechanical engineers, yes, and they recommended leaving them and not adding to the forced air system.
Okay.
Forced air going into there now, but this is in addition to that forced air.
So Megan, if I'm understanding you right, so the bathrooms have exhaust out. They're vented out.
Yes.
Stronger than the rest of the building?
Yes.
Okay, so that being said, any air, hot or cold, that we put into that space leaves the building faster than everywhere else.
Correct.
So by having them on their own heating system, it allows us to better regulate the temperature in the bathrooms versus the bathrooms being cold while the rest of the building is warm, or vice versa, because they have a different airflow out. So therefore we give them a different airflow in.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. You explained it well enough that I could do that. So I think you did a great job. So you need a motion on this should the board decide to go forward?
Yes, please.
And you'd like that decision now?
I think so. My engineers are concerned about not having boiler number 3 up in it's online and it's running, but knowing that it is January and we still have a few cold months, they don't want to chance fate and have boiler number 3 go offline again or have any more problems that need to be repaired.
Sure, and then have pipes freeze, etc., because it is a bathroom.
Or just, oh no, well, the boiler number 3 serves your entire building.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got it.
We're just an additional thing. I just stopped and had a little inventory with Kirk at Turner and said, is there anything else that's from 1992 that might need to be updated or replaced, since we're replacing everything else at this point in the building, so that all of your mechanical equipment is from the age generation.
And doing the bathrooms, you're saying makes the most sense because they're currently out and exposed, and rather put the old units back and have to replace them later and redo work just to do it now while it's open.
And hopefully you're not having any more mechanical unit conversations for the next 20 to 30 years.
I just,
Barbara.
one follow-up. The new bathrooms that are going to be in the children's area and the one that's going to be in the front, are they going to have their own vents or are they going to be with these diffuser heaters too?
They have their own exhaust systems. They do have forced air. Because they're smaller and independent, I'm fairly confident they do not have any wall cabinet heaters. The reason why we have them for the gang restrooms is because of their volume. And then the two staff restrooms adjacent to them all share the same airspace and mechanical flow. So those are the ones that have the wall units.
Thank you.
All right. So I know you're in the middle of your presentation, but let's do some work.
Hey, Kate, could I
Yes,
make
Tim.
a quick comment?
Sure.
Also, the existing boiler number 3 was the cause of the carbon monoxide emergency at the library in late November. And a new boiler would presumably not malfunction in that way.
All right. Thank you for the reminder. Does anyone want to make a motion to?
I make the motion.
Noreen makes the motion to adopt the change order.
Second it.
Second by Kathy. Thank you.
Just to clarify, it will be two change orders. One in the amount of the $49,957 for the mechanical contractor, and a second one in the amount of $3,694 for the electrical contractor.
Okay, so it's all the same project but two different contracts?
Yes.
Noreen, did your motion include both contracts?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Kathy, does your second on that still stand?
Yes.
Okay. Let's do a roll call vote. Go after discussion. Yes.
Vote.
Yes, absolutely, Richard.
Megan, we are using the contractors for the current work to replace this boiler?
We are. That keeps some efficiency. You're not bringing in another contractor onto site who will have to pay for insurance, bonding, their general conditions. We're already sort of rolling that into the existing mechanical contractor's work. So
it makes sense to me. My only question is, and this is maybe a loaded question, do you think that their price is fair? I'm just wondering that they may have us in a bad spot because we can't bid it.
that's a good question. I had our mechanical engineer review their proposal in detail, and they came back and they said it was a fair number. They did a little research on their end to make sure that we weren't in that situation.
Thank you.
Any other discussion before we go to a vote? All right, seeing none, I'm gonna do a roll call. I'll go back on our list. So in favor of approving both change orders, Jason? Jason, you're muted. Can you vote, please? We will come back to Jason. Peter? Peter? We will come back to Peter. Kathy?
Yes.
Marcia? Marcia?
Yes.
Yes,
Sorry.
thank you. That's okay. Noreen?
Yes.
Phil?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Caitlin is yes. Richard?
Yes.
Jason? Peter? Okay, I will count Peter and Jason as abstentions from the vote in the absence of their speaking. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 in favor, 2 abstention. The motion passes. Megan, we approve your change orders.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Please continue.
One other thing, which, unless Kathy wants to wait for it to come up in her report for the design steering committee, we had the committee approve 2 other change order proposals for the general construction contract 2 weeks ago. They were for the ground thawing equipment and work for the slab on grade work that needs to be done in the next few weeks, and the elimination of the sliding panel wall system at one of the study rooms. I'll quickly touch on the study room wall system elimination quickly. We have this one shared or larger study room along the north wall of the existing part of the building. Originally, we had called to put one of the sliding panel wall system in that space. We could divide it into 2 smaller spaces. Now that the ceilings have been removed, we have discovered that there's a heat pump located right at the center of that space, as opposed to off to one side where it was shown on the construction drawings from the original work. So we have a conflict there. And after talking with Tim and Margaret about the functioning of this space, we thought we could be able to provide walls that don't need the full overhead track and stack against the wall. So we could do the wall division or the room division in an easier, less expensive way and not have these complications. So the committee approved eliminating that sliding panel system, and that gives us a credit of $11,730.76. And then we had an add change order for ground thawing equipment to prep our slab area for the slab to be poured in early February. I think Kirk and Pete could probably talk to this more, but I'll try to give a brief explanation. Seeing as it is the middle of our very cold winter, although the ground is not completely frozen through, it's cold enough that we don't want to pour the slab directly without warming it up and then finishing our temporary enclosing the structure as it is right now, so we can create a warm environment for the slab to cure. We did not call for this originally in our contract scopes because we'd hoped to get this poured before the winter came fully onto us. But with the coordination of primes and a number of other things, we've landed here with our schedule. So Kirk worked with the GC on what a good number was for this. The number came in higher, and Kirk spent probably 8 hours battling it out and getting a fair number for it, which we reviewed in a lengthy conference call with Pete and Kirk and myself and the contractor. So Kirk, do you have anything? I'm probably not doing a great job explaining this, or Pete.
So what the ground thaw unit does is actually, it's all incorporated into one unit. It comes with a hose and it's got a glycol system in it. And you loop the glycol system through there, similar to what is going to happen for the radiant heat for this child's sitting area. And what that does is it heats the ground up at a rate of 1 foot per day and defrosts the ground and keeps so that there's no frost in the ground. So when you install concrete, you don't want to have any frost. It could cause issues with the concrete curing and could also crack it if it was to expand and contract based on those items. So when you look at a project in this situation, a lot of times you don't want to put that cost in there right up front, because you get a bunch of different contractors throwing a number out there that it's not very cost effective, because you don't know exactly what the numbers thrown on it. So when you look at the project, you exclude it in this situation and say, hey, we're going to need this. It's something we didn't really know we're going to do, and try to hope to not need it. And then when you get it down, you can really work with that one contractor, your GC, and discuss the need, the requirements, and maximize the cost effectiveness of a situation like this. I hope that explained that to you guys. And do you have any questions?
Barbara, do you have a question? Any
No.
questions? No?
So when we end up processing this change order, we had an add of 15,156.41, and then we have a credit of the 11,730.76. So the change order is issued in the amount of $3,425.65.
All right, and that the design committee went forward with for their approval rates.
They did, so that we could keep the schedule with the ground thawing and then the
Great.
slab pour in the next week.
Awesome, great work, design committee.
I just wanted to have a chance to present it to you folks so you don't hear about it later and have questions. That's our whole presentation for tonight. I know you've got lots more on your agenda, so if there's any questions, let us know and we'll stay on for Kathy's report as well.
All right, thank you so much, Megan.
Of course.
I have a question for you, Kate, which is
Yes.
that I believe that change order also needs a vote.
That change order does? No, it shouldn't.
It was processed. It was approved by the design steering committee. I just wanted to recap it for everyone so that.
Oh, okay, because it was a lower dollar amount than the previous one, it could be approved. Okay, thank you.
Just so everyone's in the loop.
So, all right, so that brings us to Kathy.
Okay, just wanted to mention, we had another, at our meeting on November 18th, I think it was, we had a couple other small change orders that I just should mention. That's the one where we did we approved the trailer for the construction project for $3,875. Some banner arms added to our lights for $816. Roughing in, I think this a sink in the staff break room, additional sink for $300.59, and also the a floor drain for the aquarium construction was $1,245.63. So since we were talking about change orders, I thought I would just mention those other ones that we approved. That was I believe the day after our last meeting. I think we had a meeting on a Friday, and our most recent meeting was just this morning. We changed it from yesterday because it conflicted with the inauguration. And really, we didn't have any change orders. I think Megan has a lot of slides if anyone's interested. What we talked about a lot about furniture, and we have a lot of different spaces that we were looking at to differentiate by different colors and carpeting and designs, and it's more just colors of chairs and types of fabric and types of flooring. We have some interesting things that we were having to differentiate between. We have a toddler play space. It's a nice, colorful, welcoming space for toddlers. And then we have an arts and crafts space, so which we need, tables and other types of chairs. And it's a children's, craft area. Has kind of a floor that you might have like in your kitchen, kind of a very cleanable floor, that type of thing, and some colorful chairs, but some nice tiltable tables, that sort of thing. And then we have also in the children's area the collection space, and that has other different types of furniture to it. And we have the teen space, so that has some other design elements to it, kind of cool, like seating and ottomans and things to kind of move around and appeal to teens. And then there's also the main adult space, and we've talked a little bit about that, and computer tables and kind of an interesting, like instead of a big table, kind of a, it's kind of hard to just explain, kind of a little wavy kind of thing where people have a little more private space and that sort of thing. So that's what we really did, a lot of work on design elements. Like we are the design committee. So if anybody is really interested in seeing any of these elements, well, there actually are samples in the library, which are helpful to look at, because that gives you a more idea of like what goes with what. But if anybody's really interested in any particular space and what the design looks like, Megan has lots of slides.
I have slides, and then there's samples laid out at the library, and they're labeled. So there's the carpeting and the different furniture images, and then some sample fabrics or patterns. And when we narrow down all of our selections, I'll try to put together a packet for everyone to at least do a quick skim through.
Thank you. Richard?
I just wanted to say, Kathy, that was a valiant attempt to explain colors and looks in words. It doesn't begin to. I just did want to compliment the staff that has been working on this, not only spending hours in evaluating things, but they spent over an hour with me yesterday, and I know with other board members as well. I would just encourage you to see how everything is coming together, and I think the best way to do that is to get Megan's slide deck. So I just encourage people to request that, to take a look.
Thank you, Richard. I may send it out as mandatory reading for the board. So thank you, committee. I know you're tasked with a big undertaking, so I'm quite excited. And did anyone else get really excited? They're like, we're picking out furniture. That to me is, I'm elated. So thank you guys all for getting us this far, as we continue to forge ahead to building back better. Seems to be the phrase these days. So Kathy, if there's nothing else, we'll move on to the treasurer's report.
I think that's all I have.
Great. Don't say all, like it wasn't a lot. I see Tim and Barbara also waving at me. So Barbara, why don't you go ahead? But you have to unmute first. Yeah.
Just a quick question. I guess Richard would be our guru here. Tim is in the library right now. He's by himself. There's a huge area. There's nobody else around. Does he have to leave the mask on the whole meeting? I asked Richard as our physician on call.
Well, I appreciate that, but if that's Tim's personal choice to do so, he's also welcome to it.
Oh,
I'm
sure.
also not the only employee in the library. There are 5 or 6 others. So.
Oh, okay.
But Richard,
and I was just asking to say thank you to Megan, Pete, and Kirk, who I would presume are welcome to stay, but probably have better things to do now that we're done talking about the building.
So Richard, did you want to weigh into Barbara?
No, I just think Tim's following policy, and you know.
Great.
That's it.
So, all right. So moving on to the thank you, Megan, and our construction staff. They're doing a wonderful job. And thank you for getting us to picking out furniture. This is fantastic. So Tony, for the treasurer's report and check register, please and thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I approached the analysis of the financial statement similar to prior months, which that is to look at the income statement, balance sheet, and check register all at the same time. The theory is that what happens in one impacts the other two. There are a couple of things to note, and I'll start with the income statement. You probably look at that and notice that there's a difference, a decrease in the amount of interest income current month versus prior months. The rationale behind that is that the existing or the long-term investments that we had generated more interest income. When we switched over to the T-bills, the interest is accrued but not paid until there is a maturity of the actual T-bills that are held. There's no guarantee that there even will be interest with those, but that's the reason for the decrease. Money markets and CDs can pay a higher interest rate depending upon market fluctuations, but there was a decrease in interest because with T-bills, there's no payout of any growth or gain or interest until such times that those T-bills actually mature. Looking down at expenses, by and large, you'll notice expenses in similar categories to prior years: operating expenses, employee expenses, and construction, all captured and matched fairly closely to prior months. There is an overall net loss for the month of about $240,000, and that's shown on the balance sheet. If you look at the cash flow, the assets, you'll notice that the LPL money market had a decrease of about $231,000 to cover the operating expenses for the month. Sticking with the balance sheet, you'll also notice that there is a decrease of about $449,000 to the top there, row 5 for the NBT Bank. But you'll also notice that the net assets don't really fluctuate a whole lot, and that's because that $400,000 was moved down to other line items in fixed assets. So used to cover some of the construction in process. You'll notice that down on row 40 in the balance sheet. So really just a movement there. The liabilities and the capital accounts didn't fluctuate a whole lot significantly based on prior months. So there's not a whole lot to discuss with those. The major thing with the balance sheet and the income statement was just the net loss and its impact on the short-term or current assets. And looking at the check register, I went through that line by line, noticed that the majority of the content in terms of the checks written are for materials, programs, architecture fees, professional fees. They're all items that are captured on the categories on the income statement. So nothing stood out as being a discussion point. Everything seemed to match up in terms of the categories of expenses for checks being written and what's reflected on the income statement. So that concludes my review of the statements. And if anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to answer anything that the board may have.
Questions for Tony?
If there's no questions, then I thank everyone for your time and have a good evening.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the treasurer's report for December 2020 and the check register for January 2021? Richard? Second by Marcia. Excellent. So since there are some board members I can't currently see, we'll do a roll call. Jason? Peter? Kathy? Yes, from Kathy. Marcia? Yes. Noreen?
Yes.
Phil?
Yes.
Barbara? Barbara? Yes. Okay. Richard?
Yes.
Yes, from Richard. Myself, yes. Jason? Peter? Seeing no participation, I will count them as abstentions. 7 in favor, 2 abstentions. The motion passes at 7:01. Excellent. So Kathy, we'll move on to the committee reports. You're up first with building and grounds. Anything you haven't encompassed yet?
No, I don't think so. I think I've covered all my recent meetings.
Excellent. Long range planning. Kathy, anything from long range planning?
No.
So that being said, we do know that we need to come up with a long range plan for the library. But that was put on hold because the construction, we weren't sure what the long range plan of the library would be mid-construction and mid-pandemic. So to come up with a 3 to 5 year plan when we don't have a 3 to 5 week plan is a task that I'm not sure we can undertake at this time. But Kathy, keep it on your radar as we end construction, which you'll be the first to know about as chair of the design committee, that we'll have to be working on a long range plan. So I would ask those committee members to start familiarizing yourself with what's in the plan, what needs to be in the plan, so they're ready and prepared for when those meetings start to happen. Brian Best was the chair of the finance committee. In his absence, Tim, you've got some reports?
Sure. Just reporting on one matter, and I will do my best, to report on this in Brian's absence. But Brian stated at the last board meeting that he did have significant concerns about the library's finances. And so he worked to set up a meeting with himself and Neil Sanders, the assistant superintendent for business at the school district, and me and Margaret and Carol. So we met on the phone to discuss the concern. And the concern was what would happen to the Guilderland Library tax receipts if Crossgates Mall and any other plaintiffs were successful in getting their valuations reduced. And so there was a multi-part answer to that question from Neil. The first was that the school district apparently has some leverage or power in that situation. And quoting Neil, he said, quote, "We would never agree to," unquote, any resolution of such a situation which would require the district or the library by extension to write a check back to that successful plaintiff. Instead, what is done is that a proscriptive agreement is drafted and negotiated, and the immediate pain of the lower tax receipts is spread out over 5 to 10 years through a negotiation process between the parties involved. Secondly, the way that that's resolved over the short term is that the library and the school district both prepare their budgets as they would in any year. They ask the taxpayers to support the amount of money that's needed for operation, and then the taxpayers have the opportunity to vote on that budget or not. The hole in the gigantic dollar amount that involves all property tax for the whole town is simply made up for by other property owners. So I don't wish at all to editorialize, but if any party is successful in getting their tax burden reduced, then all the other tax-paying parties share that pain over the short term. So in other words, if one person's taxes go down, then everyone else's taxes go up through that process. But the funding supply for organizations like the Guilderland Library, which is a school district public library, is not interrupted. The taxpayers presumably have ways that they can challenge that process. The one, of course, way that they can express their concern about that is to vote on the budget of the library, recognizing that it's not we're not the ones who asked for somebody's property tax to be reduced. That was a different party that did that. So the basic answer is that there is not a short-term concern if we were to prepare a budget, and we are in the budget development process now, that is roughly equivalent to last year's budget. the revenue would be there for the county to collect that property tax and pass it on to us. I could go into further detail. We talked with Neil a little bit about what would happen if the taxpayers were to turn down the library's budget, and the library would have a couple of options. One would be to rewrite the budget and ask the taxpayers to vote on it again. The drawback on that is that it takes time and also that it costs money to have an election. And the other option is to go to a contingent budget, which is essentially the same budget that we operated on this particular year. So since budgets cannot grow by more than 2% from year to year by law, and the 2% is a little bit of an oversimplification. It's a lengthy formula, but approximately 2%. We would really be under no huge jeopardy. It would be difficult to operate with 2% less revenue, but we would simply make choices that made sure that we didn't spend money we didn't have. So I believe, and I'm sorry to put words in Brian's mouth, but I believe that all participants on that phone call were satisfied that Brian, as Finance Committee Chair, had done his due diligence and determined that there was nothing really to worry about at present about that particular concern.
That is great to hear. Does anyone have any questions for Tim to try to do his best on? No, excellent. Foundation, yes, Tim.
I'm just going to add, and I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, Caitlin, but you know, it's an urgent matter to restock that finance committee because we're in the budget development time of year. So
that is true. So I'm working on it already. Dual monitors are a blessed thing. So I've just looked at the committee makeup, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but they're you know, the finance committee is currently made up of Peter, Barbara, and Noreen. Noreen is currently chairing the policy committee, which has been up to their eyeballs in policy making as of late. So I would not ask that for her to step up to do that. But if either Peter or Barbara would be so kind as to chair the finance committee and get us a budget, I think as when we approve the committee assignments later tonight, that anyone would be happy with that, to at least start with a chair. And then go forward restocking next month. A 3-person committee is certainly allowable and could start meeting ASAP should that does need to be the case. So you know, I'm sorry to do this to you, Peter or Barbara, but do either of you care to step up and chair that finance committee? Barbara, greatly appreciated. I know you've done this before. So Jenna, that will be an amendment to the committees that we'll be presenting tonight. So there'll be, yes, Barbara.
Just a quick ask, I guess. Would Phil be interested, or do you put him on other committees?
Phil is on some other committees. Phil is on 1, 2, 3. Phil is on 4 other committees currently, and is the chair of one. That being said, all of this is going to change again when we have new board members, hopefully soon. So, you know, for the time being, for this meeting, if you wouldn't mind just saying chair, and I can revisit this again, not in the middle of a board meeting. We can make some changes next month, but a budget's got to happen and be in place. So, and I gonna have to reshuffle all of this. But for 1 month,
Just like to,
yes, Peter.
I just want to thank Barbara for saving me on that one. I really do appreciate it.
I'd be glad to give it up, Peter.
So we'll approve these, removing Brian and Mark and making Barbara the chair of the finance committee tonight. And then I'll present you with some new committees next month, to take a look at if nobody minds. So thanks for letting me interrupt the, committee reports to adjust that committee, so we can keep moving forward as a library. Foundation, that would have also been Brian Best. I'll be looking for volunteers, but for now, Tim, give a report.
Yes, I was at the foundation meeting last Thursday night, and it was a great meeting. I think it's accurate to say that they have decided not to do a gala in September or October, mostly because a lot of the work of doing a gala takes place right about now, and they're just not sure that they could have one. I did present the alternative concept of assuming that the library building finishes on time and that the COVID situation is under control, that it would be fairly easy to do a cocktail party in the library, much as we did for the 25th anniversary celebration. And I don't think they voted on that, but they seemed receptive to the idea. Also, they're very interested in the story walk concept. Board members may know that the 29 libraries in Upper Hudson each have a story walk somewhere in their area, their town or their village, et cetera. So ours is in Tawasenta Park, and the foundation has some great ideas for putting more story walks in Guilderland. These are walks that a family can do together and read a book over a half mile or mile that's attached to different mailbox posts along the way. And so Beth Rienti and I are doing some behind the scenes work on that, and we think we're going to have some good announcements to make soon. And that was basically, the substance of the foundation meeting. Apologies to the foundation if I forgot any part of it. And next month, since the board meets on the second Thursday next month, February 11th, that's the same night as the foundation meeting. I will not be able to attend the foundation meeting, nor will any board member be able to attend it. But on that story walk issue, Beth Rienti is going to attend the meeting and talk to them about that a little bit.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks so much, Tim and Beth. And thanks, Tim, for that little teaser. We're looking forward to the good things to come that you've mentioned. So, Barbara, personnel.
Nothing to report. We haven't met.
And labor management?
Same.
Great. Noreen. Hey, you want to talk about the policy committee and the bylaws?
Yes. I feel like I've been saying this forever, but the bylaws are almost done, and everyone should have gotten a copy. If anyone has any questions or comments, please direct them, as soon as you can. So the next time our committee meets, we can tackle it. But it seems that so far one person has approached me with some questions and comments that we're gonna look and oversee. But if that's it from the board, then we're good to go. I mean, we can make just one more revision and we can have the final copy for the next board meeting. We have great committee. We worked really hard on this. This is like nothing I've ever worked on before in terms of policy. And thank you to everyone. And I'm just looking forward to working on new policies, to be honest with you.
That is good to hear. So just some notable changes for those of you who haven't gone through. So there was about the committees, the standing committees. So what we had found out about standing committees was that the Labor Management Committee actually shouldn't be defined by our bylaws. It's contractual with the unions. So we removed it from the bylaws so we don't have to amend them every time there is a contract, change in the contract. And that has, it doesn't follow the same rules as our standing committees. The size of the committees, as outlined in our bylaws, Article 7, Section 1B, that talks about the size of our committees. Contractually, the Labor Management Committee doesn't fit that either. Just one more, I think, reason that it was removed. So contractually, we'll meet that obligation in accordance to that and no longer by the bylaws. Additionally, I noticed about the at Article 10. Previously, there was a stipulation in the bylaws that said in order to change the bylaws, there need to be a 2/3 approval by the board. 2/3 of 11 is 7.3. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You know, you could go 7 or 8, but picking that would be arbitrary. So just sticking, I think the committee decided to just stick with the majority. Yes, Barbara.
I really strongly object to that. There's a purpose why Robert's Rules and other organizations require a 2/3 change, or you could call it an 8-person change in our case. The bylaws are the governing document of your organization. They really shouldn't be changed willy-nilly depending upon the particular flavor or composition of the board. And that's why anyone that deals with bylaws recommends a 2/3 vote in order to change them, and 2 successive meetings so that people have access, as we are having here, you know, to propose changes and then a final vote. But that particular change, as I said, I would really object to.
Well, can you agree with me that 2/3 of 11 being 7.3 doesn't make a lot of sense?
Yes.
Okay, so
I
but
would go with the 8. I would go with the 8. As long as
Richard,
member board.
you're on the committee and you worked tirelessly on this.
Yeah, I don't know about tirelessly. I'm pretty tired at this point, but Barbara, I understand your concern completely. We looked at the bylaws and we realized that everything except amending them could be done with a simple majority.
That is correct.
That includes, you know, terminating Tim's contract. It includes basically everything of gravity equal to or greater than changing the bylaws. We saw a need for consistency in this, and I don't necessarily oppose what you're saying. I understand, but there's greater guardrails in the bylaws in that it needs to be discussed at 2 consecutive meetings. As far as the Roberts Rules concerned, I think what you're saying is you look at Roberts Rules as a recommendation, not that it governs, but our bylaws supersede Roberts Rules when we specify something. And that's in Article 11 of the revisions. So it's kind of like when a higher court issues a decision, the lower court decision doesn't matter. The bylaws take precedence. But I completely understand your concern, but I feel comfortable with the 2 meeting the 2 meeting provision being more protective.
I think I forwarded to Noreen a page from the Robert's Rules of Order, which we claim to adopt as our parliamentary authority. And again, I am just not comfortable, you know, 8 is fine, but there were reasons why, you know, over the course of many, many years that organizations don't change their bylaws with just a majority vote. That's all right.
I'm going to speak to that point, but I will say again about the Roberts Rules, we're under no obligation to follow them. They're advisory. If the point you're making is that because we say we follow Roberts Rules, Article 11 says that we follow our bylaws first, and any unanswered questions go to Roberts Rules. So we're perfectly within the bounds of our bylaws to do it this way. But if your concern is about the 2/3, I'm very respectful about that.
All right, so that is one thing that the policy committee is going to have to go back. But yes, 2/3 of 11 is 7.3. So you know, to say that didn't make sense, but I can understand how you'd want something more than a majority. So you know, the policy committee will go back and see what they can do. Marcia, oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. No, there you go.
Policy committee, but I remember distinctly that I at the policy committee, I raised this as an issue. In my experience, you know, in private world, there is always a vote to change bylaws, but the rest of the committee wanted to keep it at just a simple majority, but I'm open to Barbara's suggestion, and I think we could discuss it at the policy committee.
Great.
I'm very open to it as well.
Excellent. Noreen.
Quickly, somebody else, Barbara, brought that up also, so we're definitely going to discuss it at the policy committee and take it into consideration.
Thank you.
All right. Did anyone else, and for those of you who are not aware, this draft went out last week in the board packet. So was there anything else for the policy committee regarding the bylaws? Barbara.
I already shared this with Noreen, and it's, let's see, it's section 5, election of officers.
Okay.
And it said, in the event 2 or more trustees are nominated for the same office, the vote shall be made by secret ballot. But then I would add, but the votes must be recorded in the published minutes. Anytime I believe you have a public body making a vote, it has to be a recorded vote. And so at the election of the officers, if it's not a unanimous or one person running, you can, you know, make up a ballot and hand it to the clerk or the secretary, and the person can read that so-and-so has been elected, but the minutes have to reflect who actually voted for whom.
Richard.
I don't know the right mechanism to do it, but I'd actually like Chris Lanchanton to weigh in on that issue. I think the reason for the secret ballot is that those votes have the potential to create interpersonal difficulties among the trustees. So there's no point having a secret ballot if the results are going to be published. So I understand the thinking, but I would just like Chris to kind of see what's the usual in a case like this.
Yeah, Barbara.
I have no difficulty having it looked at by Chris, but I think the reasoning behind it is what Rich has sort of brought up, that at a board meeting, say if all of a sudden we wanted to bounce Caitlin and, you know, we all voted, well, it would sort of be more of a public embarrassment versus if it's published later and just the vote is announced and nothing is mentioned. But I'll go with Chris. But I do think as a board body, I suspect her answer is going to be that you do have to publish the results of the vote.
I think it's that what Barbara is saying is that's the way we used to do it on the school board, that we would all pass our ballots to the clerk who was presiding at the meeting in the absence of officers, and then you would read who was elected, and then the minutes would reflect who voted for whom, and that's the way we used to do it at the school board. So that's probably why Barbara and I were on the school board together. So, well, you're still on it. So, so that's I think that's why.
Looking at that same section, officers' nomination terms and duties, there's no provisions for removing an officer from their position. I think the feeling is that if an officer is, you know, if all the board members wanted an officer gone, they probably wouldn't remain on the board. At that point, they would likely resign. But it may just be worth noting, you know, if there is such a process as of right now, the person gets nominated, they serve their term, and you can remove board members per our bylaws, but there is no contingent for just removing an officer for any means. So just a consideration to look into as well. And again, I urge you not just to reach out to Chris Lanchanton, but to Tim Burke and the Library Trustee Handbook, which is a collection of best practices for New York State library boards that has been put together by various stakeholders who are well versed in not just the law, but the Robert's Rules of Orders and the way that libraries operate. So thanks, Policy Committee. Especially thank you to, Barbara?
I've already gone over these with Noreen. I don't know if you want just to let her tackle them, or do you want there's about 3 more things that she has that I noted.
Well, Barbara, for the sake of open government, I would ask that in the public meeting, you please voice your concerns.
Okay, the next one was Article 7, term of a committee chair, and this was just a question. Our officers can serve up to 3 years in a particular office. But for some reason, we have chosen 2 years for a committee chair. And I didn't know if that was something that we'd want to look at or not, and make it consistent. So that was just a question. Under number 2, standing committees, the Personnel Committee, I thought it maybe would be important to add after personnel issues that the Personnel Committee also negotiates union contracts, to be presented to the board. That isn't mentioned in the duties of the Personnel Committee. I know, and over the years, that's been the committee that has done the actual negotiation.
Well, or was it the Labor Management Committee that had previously functioned?
No, it was the Personnel Committee. The Labor Management just simply functions like for grievances and, for updates, that type of thing. The actual negotiations are done by the Personnel Committee.
Okay.
And this again was just a question. Under Article 8, number 4, committee vote. And on the committee vote, as a majority vote of the committee is needed to make a recommendation to the board. What I didn't want lost, and I didn't know where to put it, or even if it fits into bylaws. When you have a committee meeting, say policy or whatever, and there are different points of view. Now, you may have a point of view that is within the committee, the majority point of view, but then there may be other committee members who didn't agree with that point of view. And so in many organizations, when a committee is sharing their thoughts with the full board, they will say, well, this is the vote of the committee. In other words, we're proposing this, but there was a minority report that we also share with you that, there was another point of view, and we just happened to win out in this particular instance, but the full board may agree with the minority viewpoint. So I just didn't want that discussion to get lost somehow, and I had no idea where to put it in. I'll leave that up, but that was my reasoning. Oops, I think you're muted.
I am, thank you. So perhaps something along the lines of a majority vote of the committee is needed to make a recommendation to the board. However, dissenting opinions, something about a dissenting opinion to the recommendation can be voiced or in some way provided to the board, sort of like a Supreme Court decision does. What they say, like, this is what we decide as a court, but this person dissents and here's why. Something along those lines sort of is what I'm thinking.
Something to capture that you don't lose that discussion.
Sure.
Barbara?
Noreen and then Marcia.
Sorry, I'm furiously looking for something that I had discussed with Jenna, and of course I cannot find it. And it's to that, of course, and it's to that particular question, and I'm sorry I don't have it, but we did discuss it. And I remember that we saw something somewhere. I'm sorry to sound so vague about why we don't put opinion in there.
Right.
So as soon as I find it, I will send it to the whole board, you know, now that you, just to let you know that we're not putting this out of thin air. It's somewhere regarding opinion.
Thank you, Noreen. Marcia.
Yeah, I think that the committee vote section number 4 should stay as it is. It is required to have a majority to vote it out and present it to the board for the board to adopt it. There's nothing in the bylaws that prevents anyone who disagreed with the majority from voicing what it is they want to say to the full board. And I think this adding a minority report is just making this much too cumbersome. We have small committees. In order to get this out, you need a majority. If anyone disagreed with the majority, I think they have an absolute right and they should voice it to the entire board. But it becomes very cumbersome if we're going to put minority reports in all of these committees. So Barbara, I truly respect with what you say. And forgive me, but you are the least shy person I know. And if you didn't agree with the majority, you would say so. And I think everybody else on the board would, in the committee would do the same. I just am leery of adding layers to this so that we have a report with a minority, majority. If it doesn't get a majority, it doesn't get voted out. But if anyone disagrees with the majority and the vote is put to the full board, they're perfectly free to voice their opinion to the full board.
So for the sake of time and considering the conversation, I mean, that we're having now, the policy committee has done the bulk of the work. But you know, part of the reason we have committees and they are tasked with things is to make recommendations to the board to keep board meetings running effectively and efficiently. And I second, Marcia, that anyone on this board would speak up if they, you know, that's why we have discussion before a vote. So that is, you know, something I'm sure that the policy committee will look into it. They have looked into this tirelessly with the help of Chris Lanchanton and Margaret and Jenna. It has been more than a team effort between all those parties. So if they've said there's a reason, I'm sure, and I'm looking forward to Noreen, when you get a chance, no rush, to let us know what the reason for that conclusion was. Was there other issues with the proposed bylaws, Barbara? You're on mute.
The only thing that I shared with Noreen is that I didn't think that preamble should be between Article 1 and 2. If you want a preamble, it should precede the articles, but you know, that this is just nothing substantive there. It's just a matter of placement and whether we even need one.
That's got to be a typo, Barbara. Absolutely agree.
All right. So that seems like a
Slam dunk.
yeah, that seems like an easy cut and paste. So great to hear. All right, Noreen.
Sorry, I want to keep the meeting moving, but Barbara, I know you asked this and you're going to come back to me, and I do have an answer for one of the questions you gave me. So it'll be really quick. And in case anybody else has it, we can just nix it right here and now. Concerning Article 6, number 7, where you question the annual meeting and why did we take out organizational? According to Robert's rules, 9-22, it talks about what occurs at an annual meeting. And one of the things that occurs at the annual meetings is the election of officers. Because I know we had discussed and you were saying that it should go under organizational, but according to Robert's rules, there seems to be no organizational. It falls under annual. So I hope that clarifies. And it's on 9-22, colon 23, and it's on page 85 and 86.
Here's the only problem that I see with that. If you elect, unless they do the swearing in of board members, new board members at that meeting, do they? Because if they haven't, then
It's a long, it's lengthy. I don't want to read it for too long. It just
we can
starts,
discuss it later.
yeah, but just to let you know, you can go find it in Robert's Rules, 85 to 86, 9:20 to 9:23. And if something else, just let me know. Call me.
Richard.
Barbara, just so I can understand, is your concern just over the name of the meeting, or is there some concern about the function of the meeting?
Well, the function of the annual meeting traditionally has been for the president to make a report of what happened over the course of the year. Each of the committees would make a report as to what happened. The meeting ends. It's usually a very short meeting, half an hour before our regularly scheduled meeting. And then in the organizational meeting, the first order of business is that the clerk, because your president may not be the president or be eligible to be president or maybe not be on the board, the clerk opens the meeting, has the pledge, gives the, the oath of office to the new people. And then in that organizational meeting, after they have done that, then you have the election of officers, usually the president first, at which point the president takes over the meeting and then conducts the election for the vice president, etc. And at that point, in your organizational meeting, you usually reappoint your insurance carrier, you reappoint your banks, you reappoint your newspaper that you use for, making your public notices and things such as that, and then go on to your traditional meeting. That has been my experience over the last 20 years. And
you're saying that there should really be two meetings specified: the annual meeting that comes before, which
right,
is kind of a recap, and then the organizational meeting.
right. I mean, that's always been done. Doesn't mean it has to be done forever that way, but
Right, no, I just
there was a
wanted to-
logic to it. There was a logic to it.
Yep, we'll go back on that.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you. Anything else for the policy committee? Excellent. So again, thank you all so very much. It is my hope that the policy committee will present us with a final draft at the February meeting, and then we can officially approve the bylaws as a board in March. So we're looking at March and April to be passing policies at this point. So excellent work. Thank you all so very much. I know this has been an undertaking, to say the very least. So UHLS, and the February meeting is just 3 weeks away. Thank you for the reminder and the pressure, Tim. The Herb's Upper Hudson report. The board of the Upper Hudson Library System met on January 13th, 2021 in a virtual manner. For 2020, there was a 20% cut in funding, which affected spending. Upper Hudson activities were also affected by the pandemic. There will be a 2021 budget submitted in February, and Director Tim Burke indicated that there'll be a new delivery schedule. The budget is still cut by 20%. Library Advocacy Day will be February 26, 2021, and will be conducted entirely virtually. There will not be crowds of people visiting legislature, and visitors will pretty much be limited to constituent library representatives. We're asking for $123 million, which would be a 20% increase over the monies we got last year. Mary Fellows has reported on the activities of the Anti-Racism Task Force. 9 members are on the task force, all of them Caucasian. The task force supports libraries that promote anti-racism and has goals while pushing out resources for libraries' anti-racism listserv and anti-racism web pages. The goals: facilitating anti-racism training for staff. A, anti-racism learning circle, staff can come together for discussion of a resource. B, all staff training. C, committed learner training. There are 20 modules of training project ready. And D, boards receive training. The treasurer's report indicated that cash on hand varied according to usual time schedules, with $267,000 in November of 2020 and $52,862 in December of 2020. Budget revisions were approved and the meeting was adjourned at 5:42 p.m. Respectfully submitted by Herb Hennings, Guilderland Library representative to the UHLS. Thank you, Herb, as always, for attending the meetings and representing Guilderland Library. Tim, you are up for your department heads, your directors and department heads report for December 2020. I know you will be succinct and as quick as possible, while still trying to give us a good idea of all the things that are going on.
Absolutely. So my general areas of work in December, obviously, were construction, relocating 4 departments in the library. And in addition to all the people in those departments who moved, I want to give a credit to the maintenance and IT departments who, every time anybody moves, there's a lot of physical labor and reconnecting and disconnecting type stuff. The point of my report is to cover what we did in December, but I do want to make sure that all board members know that about the second weekend in January, actually the first weekend in January, we became the only library in Upper Hudson that's offering any curbside pickup on Sundays. So I'm proud of our staff for getting that together. We are also 1 or 2 days away, any day now, before we will offer print on demand services, so people can email us documents, we will print them, and they can pick them up curbside. For our patron, Dan Alexander, and any other patrons like him, I just want to point out that we are a member of the Upper Hudson Library System. There are 29 libraries with 36 branches in Albany and Rensselaer County, and your card works at all of them. So if you go to the Upper Hudson website, uhls.org, you can see a list that should be updated every day of what libraries are open and providing what services and which ones are not. I checked it earlier today. 16 of the 29 libraries offer some sort of access to the interior of the building. They are generally small libraries, with the notable exception of Colony, as Mr. Alexander pointed out. I would recommend that any patrons visiting those libraries call first. These policies are subject to quick change. And also, if you dig on that spreadsheet, you'll notice that some libraries limit the amount of time you can be there and others require an appointment. So it's not just a matter of jumping in the car and going to other libraries. One notable thing that happened in December is that our PPS staff coordinated an effort with the public to deliver 284 holiday cards to clients of community caregivers. I thank everyone who participated in that. It was headed up by Ann Wempel-Person, who is now also heading up the similar effort for Valentine's Day to get greetings to those folks. All board members should be aware that there is no AARP tax aid program in our library or any other library this year. There are some social agencies that are working to find a way around that. It's a very popular service at our library. Usually about 500 people get their taxes done, but AARP is not offering it, and we don't have a place to offer it. I want to commend the staff for successfully going 11-0 against a spearfishing attack. This was not a drill, but a real attack. And IT did a great job training us how to learn to avoid that sort of thing. We also had our annual fire inspection recently and scored perfectly, even while under construction. Nothing to fix was the exact quote. And then some of the stats, just to close with stats. As you may know, we have 2 electronic book platforms, Hoopla and Overdrive. Hoopla, we added 1,013 users in 2020, and Overdrive, we added 624. That totals over 1,300 new users. And so it's a silver lining of the pandemic. If you had asked me on January 1st of last year, can you make 4% of the people who live in Guilderland become ebook users through the library, I would have said, that's going to be pretty tough to get 1,337 people on board, but we did it. And I thank our staff, particularly Luann, for publicizing. And then if you look at the circulation report that Upper Hudson did, that I included in your packet, some notable things about Guilderland. So in the system as a whole, use of ebooks is up 49% in 2020 over the previous year. But in Guilderland, it's up 68%. And so I think that's very notable. Audiobooks, the system's up 24%, but Guilderland is up 28%. Streaming video, the system-wide users are up 552%, but the Guilderland users are up 997%. So we apparently have a tech-savvy community and a motivated community. Overall, electronic resources use was up 38% in the system and 49% at Guilderland Public Library. And our total circulation for the year was almost exactly split. It was 50-50 between physical and digital. Obviously a result of the pandemic, or it would typically have been about 85-15 in recent years. But it's great that our community has picked up on their digital offerings. And that is my report.
Outstanding.
It took 6 minutes, just like last month.
You've been practicing. So 900%, that is incredible and fantastic.
I'm sorry, it was 997. So if we're rounding, that's 1,000%.
That's something. So great work. Now, at this time last year, did we have that streaming service?
We had just implemented it, so it's a little bit of an artificial number, but
just in the nick of time.
Right, exactly. And actually, you know, it was something we were just planning to do. We had done it in December, I believe, or maybe late November. Bethlehem did it at about the same time. We just did it because overall, you know, people are going towards streaming more and more. I registered for a workshop today with the Capital District Library Council that will attempt to look at the future of streaming services and how they will affect libraries. It's a complicated world. You know, there's several dozen streaming services that you can have access to. And it's got its pros and its cons, but it's the kind of thing that I encouraged our staff to take the workshop as well.
Great, thanks, Tim. Any questions for Tim on his directors and department heads reports? Is there a motion to accept them? Phil? Second, Maureen? Excellent. Quick roll call. Jason? Peter?
In favor.
Thank you, Peter. Kathy?
In favor.
Marcia?
Yes, in favor.
Noreen?
Yes.
Phil? See you, yes. Barbara? Yes. Myself, yes. Richard?
Yes.
Yes. One more time, Jason? I'll count that as an abstention. 8 in favor, 1 abstention. The motion passes at 7:50. Okay, old business. The ad hoc COVID committee. At a previous meeting, there was significant concerns by the staff about COVID safety protocols from the staff, the unions, etc. So I believe, I'm not sure if it was Tim, I can't remember. It was a long time ago. A lot's happened since then. But a committee was formed, and the reason this isn't just a standing committee assignment is so that we could involve non-board members on the committee. That being said, board members on the proposed committee are Phil, Marcia, and Kathy Barber, who all volunteered. Tim Wiles as the director, Ann Whipple-Person and Maria Buell, and Margaret Garrett. Margaret representing the wealth of knowledge that she always brings to the table. I don't know what the actual definition other than wicked smart and really knows her stuff, and the 2 unit heads of CSEA 1 and 2. So that committee, should you guys approve the committee assignments sort of as presented tonight, we'll go forward to just look at the COVID protocols in the library. Richard Rubin will, as MD, can consult when necessary to the committee. And he's also made some really great connections for the library itself on COVID protocols and safety. So we can assure staff and patrons that we're following the latest up-to-date guidance in ensuring safety. And committee assignments. So as presented, they've already changed. Page 28 of the PDF Jenna sent in the board packet would have been the committees to approve tonight. So I guess it's bolded in the agenda, so that means Jenna tells me it needs a motion to establish the COVID Action Committee. So that's Phil, Marcia, Kathy, Tim, Margaret, Ann, and Maria. Is there a motion to, yes, Tim? You're up.
I'm okay. I'm
Okay.
joking with someone.
Got it. Okay. So is there a motion to adopt the COVID Action Committee? Richard. Second, Noreen. Roll call. Jason. Peter. Kathy.
Yes.
Marcia.
Yes.
Noreen.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Barbara.
Yes.
Caitlin. Yes. Richard.
Yes.
Yes. One more time. Peter. Yes. Thank you, Peter. Jason. I'll consider that an abstention. So 8 in favor and 1 abstention. That motion passes at 7:54. COVID Action Committee has been adopted. So your task is to work together, staff and board, to make sure that we're following the latest protocols and guidance, and that we have our official plan. Phil, you told me what it was called, but
I think it's the COSP.
the COSP, sure. So there's some official document that has to be submitted. So make sure that everyone is on the same page, from the board level to the unions and Tim. Yes, are you joking again, or you want to talk?
I'm not joking. Actually,
Okay.
I would just like to say a couple sentences about that. So again, Margaret's done some tremendous work. Board members will remember that on May 27th, we passed a reopening plan. And then when this committee was suggested, it was not just my thought, but the thought of others, that rather than just picking up and choosing dates, arbitrary dates when we thought we could be reopened, that we might tie this to some of the well-known metrics about the coronavirus. So that's part one. Part two is that the state is requiring us by April 1st to file a plan for the next pandemic. And so some really good work has been done at the Albany Public Library with that. And their director, Scott Jarzambek, made that available to others. Margaret has done a lot of work in terms of reviewing that document, removing things that only applied to the Albany Library, such as encouraging employees not to take public transportation to their jobs, since that doesn't really apply to us. And she has incorporated those changes. And what I'm going to suggest to the committee is that we use the Albany plan for the next pandemic as our plan for the next pandemic, and also as our plan for the current pandemic. So we can talk about that more as a committee, but I didn't want to let this meeting go by without saying that a lot of work's been done already. So if any committee members are starting anything from scratch, let's get together and get ourselves on the same page so we don't duplicate effort.
Excellent. We do need to approve the committee assignments, but there some already changes to this list that was presented to you. So please remove Brian Best and Mark Keeling from all committees, and Barbara will chair the finance committee. And at present, by default, Jason will chair the audit committee, since he's the only board member currently on it. But we have been audited, that has been approved, so we don't quite need to do anything at the moment. I feel confident that we can deal with that in a month from now. So I know that was a lot to take in verbally, and I apologize. But is there a motion to adopt the committee assignments with said revisions?
So moved.
Marcia, is there a second? Barbara, discussion? It would be great to name a new foundation liaison, Tim. That being said, previously in this meeting, you've stated that at the next meeting, it's a conflict, and so no board members can attend the next foundation meeting. So I also feel comfortable for just 1 month. We can leave that vacant, since we know that is a conflict, and I can work with Steve Waxman to make sure that we get an update on our report that I can give at the next meeting. If everyone's fine in those motions, we're in no more discussion. I'll do a roll call. Jason? Peter? Kathy?
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes.
Noreen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Caitlin? Yes. Going back to Jason? Peter?
Yes.
Yes from Peter, thank you. So Jason, in the absence of a vote, I will consider it an abstention. So 8 in favor, 1 abstention, adopted at 8 p.m. And we'll do this again next month. So if anyone wants to volunteer, please let me know. We'll be looking for a new liaison and someone on the audit committee. New business. Barbara.
Just a suggestion. The gentleman that wrote to us asked us as neighbors to thank the Colony Library for serving the Capital District, in the time of the pandemic, when many of us weren't able to be open. And if it's appropriate, I would certainly be very happy to thank the Colony Library for helping the Capital District community to have library services, at their facility to the extent that they were able to offer them.
Thank you, Barbara. Peter?
I'm in complete support of what Barbara just said.
I'd like to thank all the libraries in Upper Hudson, New York State, and across the country for all the services they've been able to provide during all of this. It's just really remarkable. So was there a motion anyone you wanted to make on that, or just a statement?
I'd be happy to make it as a motion. As I said, as a good neighbor, I'm very thankful that they were able to service many of our patrons when we couldn't. So I think a thank you was warranted.
I would like to second it.
All right, motion by Barbara, thanking the Colony Public Library, second by Peter. Discussion, Richard and Marcia. I see both of you. Richard, Marcia first, if you don't mind. I saw her.
I think it's a wonderful idea to thank Colony and maybe all the other libraries, since we are sisters and brothers and provide the same services to our community. The only comment I have is the person whose letter it was, Mr. Alexander, made a comment about the staff's unwillingness to keep the library open, and I object to that. And so I'd like to see what the resolution looks like. I have no objection to thanking the libraries, but I do think that remark is off base.
Thank you, Marcia. Richard?
I am actually going to move to table Barbara's motion. And the reason I'm going to do that is because Barbara didn't put anything specific out. When a resolution is made, the text of the resolution needs to be included. So I'm going to move to table it. And I would ask for a second to that motion.
All right, Richard moves to table, second by Kathy. I am not a parliamentarian. I don't know. Richard and Noreen, the policy committee, you're well versed in Robert's rules at this point. How does we vote on Richard's, and then if we need to, we go back?
Correct.
Could I just say that I did make the motion that the Gilliland Public, that we absolutely want to thank the Colony Library for serving the citizens of the Capital District during the time of the pandemic. That I did say the motion.
So the motion is to specifically thank Colony.
They're the ones that I have heard of that have serviced most of our patrons that have had to go elsewhere. It's just a thank you to our neighbor.
Somebody mentioned it. I mean, I guess I'm just not really sure why we're making a motion to thank the Colony Library. And I mean, I really don't understand your motion. I'm sorry.
Could you read or state your motion again?
Yeah, and slowly, because Kathy has to write this down.
Sure. I make the motion that we extend a thank you to the staff of the Colony Public Library for serving the Capital District during the time of the pandemic. Simple, easy.
So what's Colony Public Library actually doing? I mean, are they doing something special? I mean, what are they doing that you need to thank them specifically? I'm just kind of a little confused.
Hold on. I just want to, Peter, now that Barbara has very clearly stated her motion for the minutes, does your second still stand?
It does.
Okay, so there is a
I
second.
will withdraw my motion to table.
Okay, Richard withdraws his motion to table. All right, so we're still discussing thanking the library. I see Richard with a hand up. I believe Marcia also would like to respond. And Kathy, perhaps you'll get an answer as we continue the discussion to what it is. But it's just the building was physically open to patrons.
Right.
That was, I think, the big difference in Colony was that they were physically open to patrons.
Correct.
Are they under construction?
You don't have to wait, the 5 to 10 days to actually pick up a book. You could just go and pick up the book. For a time, you had to make an appointment. And then for a time being when the cases were low during the summer, I believe you could actually, go in. They physically allow just certain numbers of people, but it seemed that they were able to maintain a flow.
Well, I guess my question to you is Colony Library under construction at the moment?
No, and I think the letter writer was saying that it specifically made a point, if I don't have it in front of me, but from June to October, we weren't under construction either. And, we were not physically open. So I think that's the point that the gentleman was making, that, our patrons did have access to a walk-in facility where they could pick a book off a shelf and, not have to wait.
Well, we had a room open for a while. We had a room open where people could come and browse.
Folks, I'm going to interrupt. I don't want to get into an argument over or which library is better. The motion is to thank Colony for the service they provided. And so, I'd like to avoid being argumentative and back and forth towards each other. Because this, I think, while I don't believe that Mr. Alexander's point was meant to necessarily be kind or nice to the Guilderland Library, we certainly would like to be that to our neighbors.
Right.
So I appreciate the motion. We're going to go Richard, Marcia, and then we'll come back to you, Kathy. I think as maybe this becomes more clear.
I would like to first say that I very much appreciate the other library under consideration, as well as all of the other libraries in the capital region, the state, and the nation. I would vigorously oppose this motion. And the reason that I would vigorously oppose this motion is that the motion implies that they are doing things right and we are doing things wrong. That is the natural implication in this motion. The science is such that they may not be doing a service to the public. And by it saying that we are doing a disservice to the public by our due diligence. The resolution to thank their library specifically because they have been able to be open goes against what we've talked about recently in our board meetings, that we have been doing the best that we can in very difficult situations. Tonight there was a trivia contest, a Broadway trivia contest, Mediterranean cooking. I don't have to go through it all, but I think that to accept this motion denigrates the Guilderland Public Library, and I am vigorously in opposition to it.
Thank you, Richard. Marcia?
Yeah, the premise of the letter was that the staff refused to keep the Guilderland Library open, which I said earlier, and I don't accept that premise. Number one, it was a board responsibility, and we all voted to make accommodations as necessary with respect to what we did with Guilderland, and the staff followed our recommendation. If we wanted to enlarge this conversation and have a general letter to all our sister and brother libraries, in which we all share in services and serving the public, I would agree to that. So I think, Barbara, I agree with your sentiment, but I think a larger resolution would probably be more appropriate than just Colony, if in fact we want to do this, period.
I think that was well said by both Richard and Marcia. Noreen?
I'm just going to go out and say this. I personally think it's a passive aggressive letter. And if you wanted to thank Colony, you can go to them and thank them. And I agree with Richard and Marcia that I would be in favor if we thanked all libraries. But what I'm inferring is not, to thank them, but what about us? And so I definitely oppose this motion.
Kathy, did you want to come back?
I agree with I think Richard said it very well, that that we don't want to imply that our library is doing things wrong and some other library is doing things right. And I also agree with Marcia that if we want to do a general letter to thank all libraries for providing service in this difficult time, then we can do that. But I think I agree that the implication is that we're doing things wrong and some other libraries doing things right. That's correct.
Can I?
Yeah, Jason.
I just want to add that at no point did anyone say that anyone was doing anything wrong or right. We just wanted to thank, our neighboring, library for, providing, a service to our patrons. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Thanks, Jason. Barbara?
I just think we're reading too much into a simple statement, a simple thank you that, as I said, many of our people have gone because they wanted to pick up a book off a shelf and they were very happy about it. And it's just a simple thank you. It's not a statement. There are no underlying tones, at least in my resolution. I think we're reading too much into it. I simply wanted a thank you extended to a fellow library that is contingent with ours, that has been used by many of our people that want, the immediate ability to pick up a book. I mean, I don't deny that we've provided tremendous curbside services, et cetera, et cetera. And now we have 24-hour, you can drop a book in 24 hours a day. And we keep increasing our services. I'm very happy with those, but I just see no reason why we can't thank a fellow neighboring library for being extra kind for many of our people.
Thanks, Barbara. Richard?
Would you agree, Barbara, that the science of COVID transmission is not 100% defined?
Absolutely.
Okay, and would you also agree that it's possible that by doing what they're doing, possible, not probable, and not absolute, is it possible that this library, by their access policies, are placing our residents at some increased risk?
That one I can agree with because they do require masking. They do require the social distancing, the things that CDC has, always recommended. So I just don't see where it's any different going into the Colony Library than going into a ShopRite or to Lowe's or going to church or synagogue on Sunday.
And I feel like that statement's painting them in a negative light by you saying that.
I'm just asking, there is an implication of right and wrong in Mr. Alexander's letter and in the resolution.
See, I'm not referring to his letter at all. He made a suggestion. I thought it'd be nice to extend a thank you to a library that has helped many of our people. It's just a simple thank you. It's not a condemnation of anybody or anything. It's just an extension, this whole village concept that we're helping each other out. And I think that their protocols are right on point for what we know now. And, as I said, it was a simple thank you to a fellow library that has helped. A lot of these other 19 libraries that Tim mentioned, are in the hinterlands and our people don't go there, but they have taken advantage of Colony. And so, as I said, it was a simple thank you. It's a board vote. If people don't want to thank their fellow library, that's fine. But I thought it'd be appropriate to just offer an extension and a hand and a thank you to them for helping not just us, but I'm sure, people from Albany and the surrounding area had taken advantage of that. And what we're saying thank yous, the Upper Hudson library system, I think has really tried to keep on top of this and try to keep books moving and things such as that. So, as I said, but the college is in particular, my resolution stands. We can call the question and whatever happens.
Barbara, I think if the spirit of the resolution is to thank libraries for the services they've provided to our patrons, I would feel much more comfortable that it encompass all libraries in the Upper Hudson, New York State, the country, and maybe the world. I don't know where all our My recently departed aunt had library cards for 9 different library systems. She had a degree in library science. But, you know, so I think if the spirit is to thank our brother and sister libraries for serving all the patrons from Guilderland, I would feel more comfortable if it didn't call out one library, but instead thanked all the libraries and their staffs. So if there's no more new discussion, I think people are situated in their opinions,
Right.
and we can go to a vote. Jason?
Yes.
So Jason is yes. Kathy? Kathy, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I said no.
No. Marcia?
No.
Noreen?
No.
Richard? Bill?
No.
Barbara?
Yes.
Caitlin? No. Peter?
Strongly in favor.
So with a vote of 3 in favor, 6 against, the motion does not pass. That being said, I would like to motion to thank all the libraries and their staffs in the Upper Hudson system, New York State, and the United States for the services they've provided to patrons from everywhere during this time. Is there a second? Phil, I got Phil. Yes, Marcia. Okay. So is there discussion on the motion to thank everybody? Great. Jason? We'll go to a vote. Jason? Peter? Kathy?
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes.
Noreen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Richard?
Abstain.
Barbara?
Yes.
Caitlin, yes. Peter?
Yes.
Jason? In the absence of a vote from Jason, it is an abstention from, I will count his as an abstention. So with 7 in favor and 2 abstentions, the motion passes. 819. Any other new business? Marcia?
Yeah, I had spoken to you, Caitlin, about the possibility of writing to the Altamont Enterprise as a board, just making a wider thank you to the staff. We had a resolution last board meeting put forward by Richard, which was unanimously approved. I just thought that it might be fitting, since the Altamont Enterprise has had many letters from a variety of people, including the staff. It might be fitting for the board to put a letter in as well, thanking the staff for all of its hard work. I had drafted something which I sent to you, Caitlin. I am not wedded to it. We could certainly put in the resolution that was passed last time around, since everybody approved of it. And I just thought it would be a good idea to put it in the paper, so we have a wider appreciation of the staff for the public.
Does anyone feel strongly in one direction or another about submitting a letter to the editor of the Enterprise? Okay, no one feels strongly in one direction.
I'm sorry.
Or another. Noreen, yes.
I'm sorry, Marcia. Sorry, my boys were asking me something really quickly. I caught the tail end. Can you just repeat quickly the
Sure.
beginning?
Yeah, we passed a resolution last time unanimously, and we thanked the staff of the library for all of its hard work during during the COVID situation as well as construction. And you know, of course, our minutes are public, but there have been a lot of letters to the Altamont Enterprise, which is our newspaper of record. And I just thought it might be fitting for the board to put a letter in to the editor as a body, thanking the staff so that it has a wider dissemination. I had drafted something which I sent to Caitlin because I called her about it. We could certainly put in the resolution that we approved last time around just to make things simple. But I just thought that the Altamont Enterprise gets a wider audience than our minutes do, and it would put a nice point, you know, finishing bookend to the statements that were made in the paper that were very laudatory toward the staff.
Okay, thank you, Marcia. I would be really behind that if you drafted something. That sounds lovely, and I think it would be nice to add it to the Altamont Enterprise from the board.
I see Richard, Barbara, and Kathy are both off mute. So we'll go Richard, Kathy, Barbara on the discussion on that. Richard?
Caitlin, somewhat with some reluctance, but with necessity, I too resign my position on the Guilderland Public Library Board of Trustees, effective immediately.
What?
I would ask for respect of my decision, and I want to thank you all for your advocacy for the community and for the library, and it has been a pleasure serving with each of you. I will follow that up in writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Okay. I will await further communications from you. We do still appear to have a quorum, so we can continue.
Hey, Caitlin, can I just say something or no?
Yes, Peter, please.
I think it is very important. What Marcia said earlier today in the meeting, I think it's very important that we meet as soon as possible, whether it's whatever we got to do, we got to meet as soon as possible. We've had 3 resignations tonight, 1 last meeting. And I have a feeling there might be others. It'd be better to get on top of this as soon as possible and have a meeting as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
We're in trouble if this is we've lost 4. We're grateful for Phil coming back, obviously, but we need to do something to stop this. We're going to the library is going to be in a lot of trouble. We're going through a massive expansion. There's a lot of things going on, and we're going to need to deal with this as soon as possible.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And if people are uncomfortable in meeting at the library, let's find a restaurant with heat lamps. But you know, you can also meet in my basement, but I think people are uncomfortable being indoors. So whatever is a suitable venue, I reiterate and thank you, Peter, for saying that, because I think we are in trouble, and I think we owe it to the public to have an understanding of the members of the board, both and those who are willing to come who've resigned, as well as the current board members, so that we can understand what's going on here and try to rectify it. I'm not happy with the way things are now, just left without a real airing as to what's causing all of these resignations.
I completely agree. I'm a little blindsided.
I'm really kind of surprised that you guys are saying that. Like, I feel like we haven't been attending the same meetings.
I know that the meetings, we've been discussing some pretty contentious and important topics, but I was hoping that we as board members were coming together to work through these issues as they came up. You know, I know that it is hard work. And I know that there is some unhappiness, and the board has been pretty split into 2 sort of distinct camps. And but you know, some of the resignations I'm not entirely surprised by. Others I'm completely taken aback by. And we do need to get together and find out. You know, I think what is most disconcerting to me is that no one has approached me to discuss this. As much as I've tried to reach out to board members to have some conversations, it is not. I haven't heard that there was this much discontent, and no one has approached me to say, "Hey, I'm having an issue, and let's work through this."
Wrong. That's wrong.
So I'm, you know, we have to get together sooner rather than later to sort this out. And I would encourage any board member that's having an issue to please reach out to me, and we can figure this out, because there is too much going on for the library to be abandoned by its leadership. We need all the members of this board. Jenna, is it possible to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting from December with who's present?
Let's see, who is still here?
Myself, Barbara, Jason, Phil, Peter. Phil can't vote, sorry.
Right.
So Caitlin, Peter, Marcia, Noreen, Kathy, Barbara, Jason.
Yeah, we're good. I don't think there's any abstentions from December.
Okay. So Tim and Jenna, can you figure out how we can have I don't know how this needs to work, some sort of in-person social distance, you know, maybe on a Saturday or Sunday sometime, you know, when we can figure this out, and invite some of the recently resigned board members to discuss this.
We will work on that. And as a first step, I hope this is appropriate to suggest, but I would like to suggest that we don't immediately remove the recently resigned board members from the board list until we can at least get an invitation out to them.
I would, you know, I've already received Richard's email that he has resigned from the Guilderland Board of Trustees effective immediately. You know, I don't necessarily think there needs to be, they need to be on the list, but they should be involved in the planning of this board retreat.
We have other emails for them, so we can remove them from the list and contact them the other way.
Thank you.
I would also just throw out there that Tim Burke says that he's always available to facilitate these sorts of things.
Great.
I think that might be necessary. Is there any other? Yeah, Marcia?
I'm sorry, my battery's going to run out, so I just want to move this along. But
okay,
I will say one thing. There is a fiduciary responsibility of this board to meet the responsibilities for which it was elected. And I don't, you know, people want to resign, that's fine, but I do think I couldn't feel more strongly about having a meeting as quickly as possible so that the library can function with oversight from the board. If people want to resign, there's nothing we can do about it, but we do have a responsibility to the public. And so I think we need to meet as soon as possible.
Thank you. I would agree. So Tim and Jenna, I expect a doodle poll in my inbox sooner rather than later, and we can schedule this to happen as quickly as we can. Is there any other, and Marcia, I have not forgotten that you discussed a letter.
I can table that, Caitlin, for now.
I appreciate that. But I will work on incorporating your thoughts, the resolution from the past meeting, Noreen's letter, and draft something. And my plan, so you're aware, is to draft a letter and present it to the board and have the board approve the letter to be submitted to the Altamont Enterprise,
Great.
so that everyone is in agreement and we are presenting a united board front on what we're saying.
Right. I sent you a draft. Feel free to eviscerate it.
I appreciate that. So minutes of the regular board meeting.
Caitlin.
Yes, Peter.
I don't even know if this is in line or if it's even possible, but you know, with that meeting that we're planning on doing, would it be possible to make a motion to adjourn until we meet next time and come back either with people who've chosen to come back or decided not to, and try and get some names of people who might be interested so we can establish a full board? Is it possible to do that, or is that out of order?
We have to approve the minutes of the regular meeting from last month. We have enough people to do it, and we can check for public input and then adjourn. We still have a quorum of our board.
Okay.
And if we can get these two motions passed and hear any public input, then we can be done. I would appreciate that.
I move to approve the minutes.
I will second it.
Second, motion by Marcia, second by Peter. Roll call, Jason. Peter.
In favor.
Barbara. Kathy.
In favor.
Marcia.
In favor.
Noreen.
Yes.
And Caitlin, yes. Jason, last chance. Abstentions by Jason and by Phil. So that motion passes 6 in favor at 8:33 p.m. Luann, is there public input?
No other public input tonight.
Thank you so much, Luann. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I got Peter with the motion to adjourn. I'll second by Marcia. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 8:33 and the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all.
Very much. Have a good night.
Good night.